For many years, I used to monitor my YouTube subscription feed, and I would see new videos that come out from different creators. And when those videos came out, I would either watch them immediately or I would add them to my watch later list. But as I began subscribing to more and more channels, it became more and more difficult to keep up with every video that everyone was creating. My watch later list is so large. It's over 3,000 videos on my watch later list. So how do we manage a huge volume of videos that we just can't realistically consume, that we can't watch? There's too many to watch. So we need a way to filter them. Out of the 3,000 videos on my watch later list, which are the ones I want to watch right now? This is why we need an algorithm. An algorithm helps us to sort through all of these videos and be able to figure out what it is that we want to watch next, right now, based on whether I'm on my computer or my phone, but based on the time of day, what I'm doing in that moment. All of these different factors play a role in what I'm going to watch or listen to. An algorithm helps us sort through that and figure out what that is. This is the opportunity I see with YouTube as a creator, is understanding this dynamic that I'm describing and building a channel that operates in a way that interfaces with that dynamic in a very direct way. In this video, I want to talk about a content-centric algorithm. I also want to talk about what YouTube is doing at the highest strategic level as I see it, sort of the aha moment that I had. And I also want to talk about what is a deep and wide channel and how do I go about and what does it look like for me to create that channel. And hopefully as you're watching, you'll glean some insights, ideas that you can apply as you go about creating for your YouTube channel. One of the reasons I was always more interested in Twitter, now X, and Facebook is that it was more topical. It was more around a shared passion or a shared idea or shared values. And Facebook was always relational first. It was your friend, it was your family member, and then whatever topics stemmed out of that. But those create very different dynamics because if you connect with someone that you have a shared passion with and then you build a relationship, it's a very different dynamic than when you have a relationship with someone and they have passions that maybe you don't have an interest in or that you don't align with. And so there's an interesting opportunity. As the social media channels have evolved, TikTok pushed this idea to its most extreme in the way that it eliminated the connections between people and it became content-centric. So the type of content you're looking to consume, TikTok would figure out what that is and it would deliver that content to you. And this is why on TikTok, there are so many people that have small channels, small followings, maybe even haven't done a lot of videos, and all of a sudden they go viral in a huge way. We know someone from our church who got millions of views on one of their videos recently. So this is something that has changed the way that the other platforms have operated, and the algorithms are shifting from a strictly followership, but to a relevance promotion of content. They want people to be on their platforms and use them more often, but how do they find the content that is going to do that? And sometimes it's a small creator, sometimes it's a big creator. So while connection and authority can both still play a role in connecting me as a viewer with content that I want to see, ultimately what matters is that I see the next video that I most want to watch next. And that's the $1 million question. How does a platform figure out what that is? A content-centric algorithm is the way to accomplish that. It's to build the connections based on the topics and based on the interests and based on the relevance on these different factors to deliver the content that is most relevant to that individual. When the algorithm fails, I go to my watch later list. But interestingly enough, YouTube, I don't know how recent this has been, but I've noticed that it shows more videos from my watch later list, which is exactly what I want. These are videos that I've earmarked. I do want to watch them, but I have so many. How do I know which one to watch next? There are some filters. You can go by most popular, most recently added, and some of those filters can be useful to a degree, but often they're not that helpful when it's dealing with a large volume. The better YouTube's algorithm gets at connecting people and viewers with the content they want to create and the creators creating that content, the less we're going to need a chronological feed, the less we're going to need a watch later list, because things are going to pivot and shift, and the algorithm potentially could get to the point where it always is a step ahead of us, knowing what we want to watch even before we want to watch it. And this is the opportunity I see. At the highest strategic level, what is YouTube doing? I think the key question to ask in order to answer that question is another question. How would you educate the entire world for free. Solving that problem, I think, is what YouTube is doing. Because there's so many people that are great teachers, there's so much great information, and the internet has created a Cambrian explosion of opportunities for us to share information, insight, perspective, worldviews across the world in fast and fairly inexpensive. And so the question is, well, why haven't we educated the entire world for free? It seems like we should be able to educate someone from kindergarten to college and even advanced topics across multiple areas of expertise. And that's actually what has happened. The internet has opened that opportunity. And what I've realized with YouTube is that it is actually playing a vital role in that endeavor. YouTube is not trying to directly solve the problem, but rather it's created an ecosystem of creators and students and watchers and those that want to entertain and those that want to be entertained. It's created an ecosystem, and it's done that to facilitate this process. You could also add to my question about how do you educate the world for free? How do you entertain the world for free, right? So now all of a sudden you've got these two questions that are being answered. YouTube has built an ecosystem to accomplish that, and it's been able to do that for free. Since YouTube is allowing creators to publish content for free, and then it's running advertisements, it's then sharing that advertising revenue with the creators. So this ecosystem allows for students to learn for free and creators to create and publish without any cost. And the advertising, the way of facilitating this, and creators can tap into the platform and the influence and the reach to be able to sell other things beyond the advertising to make more money than they would simply by the advertising. This flywheel, this reciprocal relationship allows for this ecosystem to continue to grow and for more creators to join the platform and for more and more people to be able to learn from those creators. I think of it like this growing orb of insight, information, entertainment, and YouTube is continuing to feed this thing to grow it and make it larger so that more and more creators and watchers benefit from the experience. This is the opportunity that I see. I mentioned creating a deep and wide channel. So what does that look like? What does this type of variety channel look like? And how does it tie into this opportunity? Out of all the things I could watch, what I want to watch most is the thing I want to watch most next. So the algorithm helps me figure out what that is. The algorithms of the future will be helping me to watch the content that I'm most interested in watching right now or in the near future. The better that these algorithms get at helping me accomplish that objective, the more successful they're going to be. And so it's a bit of an arms race to figure out how to do that. And these platforms are competing. And TikTok has set the stage for many of these other platforms to follow suit. This algorithm is then helping me see what I want to see, and it's helping filter out everything I don't want to see. So it's blinding me to all of the noise so that I can focus on just the thing that I'm interested in. It has to leave a door open enough for discovery. So while there may be the next thing I'm looking for that is based on my history, there's always new and exciting and novel. And so there has to be a discovery layer to this. And that'll introduce new ideas and new content, new creators. And that'll allow for both the users to expand what they're interested in and watching, but also for more creators to enter into the marketplace. So what this means is that relevance is most important, not just volume. But volume can help us discover that relevance or become relevant to a larger audience. So let's say I publish 10 videos, and those 10 videos hit 10 different topics. That might be 10 different audiences. And so I have one video that is reaching 10 different audiences. But each of those individuals, they see the one video. They don't see the other 9 because the algorithm has shown them what they're interested in and it's shielded them from the things they don't want. I either have the opportunity to create 10 videos for that one audience, or I can create 10 videos for 10 different audiences. If I were to create 10 videos for one audience, that would be niching down. That would be creating a single category of information or entertainment, whatever that might be, but it's for a specific audience. Whereas with 10 videos for 10 different audiences, I'm spreading myself across these different audiences. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that if niching down was the only way to be successful, YouTube would not have a platform because YouTube would have to niche down its ecosystem to focus on one category of content. But yet it has millions of topics. It has millions of niches. What I'm talking about is understanding what YouTube is doing as an ecosystem. And while we can't go after 10,000 different niches like YouTube, we also don't have to be limited to one single niche, which is what I hear many people talking about. There's an opportunity to be somewhere between, it might be 3, it might be 5, it might be 10, it might be 30. It might be 5 now and 4 later. And they might be different ones at different points in our life and in our YouTube creation. I've been blogging since 2014 regularly. And I've written about a lot of different topics, and there's an evolution of my journey when I first started doing things I was writing about, and how once my freelancing business got going, I shifted to some other things. It's not a finite or a sort of super structured thing, and I could have controlled it more, but I allowed it to unfold in more of an organic way. We can ride those waves with our content creation. And I think that is part of the opportunity. Back to the idea of creating 10 videos for 10 different people or 10 videos for one single person. Some of this comes down to what you're trying to accomplish. What are you trying to do? What type of business are you trying to build? What type of YouTube channel are you trying to create? So all of these factors will play into what it is that you're trying to accomplish and whether this is an approach that works for you. And realistically, I can't go after 10 million different niches. I have to narrow it down to some degree, but I don't have to narrow it down to one. I can keep it open-ended. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that further in the video and how I'm structuring and organizing the content that I'm creating. There's a couple different ways you can approach this. You could start with one niche, and then you create content for that niche and flesh it out, and then you add the next one, and then you flesh that out, and then you add the next one. Or you can start with a plan of what these different areas are, and you create in a round robin way. You create one for this, one for this, one for this, and you sort of just rotate, or you focus on things based on what's happening in your life or your work in that moment, or what's easiest to produce. I've published 2 books. My first book was called Path to the Freelancer. I wrote this book first because it was the easiest book for me to write. Then I wrote The Jump, which was a letter to my clients. It was a letter to past me when I had my marketing company. And now I'm working on this book, From the Garden to the Cross, and hopefully I'll be done with that this year. But I started with the easiest, and then I worked toward the harder. And so the third book that I'm now working on has been very difficult. If I had started with that, I may never have published a book. So I think some of those dynamics can play a role in how we go about creating. In the end, what I'm banking on is that it won't really matter how many videos I create, because the algorithm is going to connect people to videos. And so the volume will matter in terms of having a larger reach. But in terms of having a successful channel, I can create across topics, and the algorithm will deliver those videos to the people that are relevant. It also gives me an opportunity to introduce people into other topics across lines and to blur the lines in many ways. I recently did a new format for my podcast. This new format was an interview with a friend of mine while we were playing a computer game. I've interviewed a lot of people, but now I'm adding this new dynamic. So I'm fusing this traditional interview podcast with this gaming video, and I'm making this third thing, which is something interesting and different. There are people that are interested in gaming that now all of a sudden I can introduce them to this interview thing that maybe they would have never watched the interview. But now that I have this interesting video, they might watch it for the gaming and then be introduced to this new format. So it's a pioneering approach, which may mean it's going to be harder in some ways in terms of getting traction or reach. Sometimes pioneers don't get all the benefits from pioneering, but it's also an exciting adventure. And because I'm successful as a freelancer and I don't need to make an income from YouTube at this point, I can be a lot more flexible. I can take risks. I can do the things that I'm talking about. Maybe it won't work out for me. Maybe I'm going to fail miserably and I'll have to lean into the more traditional recommendations that people tend to give. But I really want to lean into this idea and see what happens, and see if I can track a path and see if I can make it work. So this is the opportunity I see for YouTube. I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. I moved to Atlanta from Arizona in 2005. I had a marketing company. Now I'm a full-time freelancer and consultant. I've written 2 books, working on my third one. I started blogging publicly in 2014. I started my podcast in 2020, and I started getting serious about YouTube in 2025. And so as I've gone through this journey, I did start more organically, and I started writing with my blogging. I started creating, and I noticed patterns. And so I put those patterns together, and that gave me structure. And so the type of content that I'm creating is a deep and wide structure. It's comprising a lot of different categories, but it does have a design to it. So I want to share a little bit about what that design is so you can understand it and see how this evolves. This is my website. It's jasonscottmontoya.com. If you click this blog button here, this is the library of content that I've created. And you'll notice here I've got this grid of these content items. But really the key thing I want us to look at here is I'm here to, and there are 4 buckets. And this is the structure of my content creation. And these were the patterns that I noticed. So I noticed I was writing about growing myself, personal development, growing my business, growing others, leadership, community, societal, politics. And then the last is getting inspired, which is about stories, my story, other people's stories, fictional stories. And so these are the 4 buckets. When I create content, when I write, when I create YouTube videos, they're one of these 4 buckets. If I zoom in, I click on grow myself here, I've got subcategories. So I talk about my Christian faith, I talk about finances, I talk about personal communication, personal development, productivity. Within these categories, some of them are a lot more dominant than others. So I click on the second category. So I talked about growing your business, entrepreneurship. I write about blogging, business development, freelancing, a system me and some others developed called IDEMA, marketing, organizing systems, people management, project management, writing, and this year I've added YouTube. And then under leading others, I've got a community, mentoring, leadership, parenting, and society. And it's a lot of categories. But I've been writing a lot of content. I've got 600 to 700 blog posts on my website. I've got over 100 podcast episodes. So I have been creating a lot of content across categories. One of the opportunities I have specifically is I've written so much content that I actually could just start doing YouTube videos on stuff I've written. I have the script. I might need to update it, but I could take an old blog post that's got this idea that I've authored and I put out there, and I simply do a video. So I can produce a lot of videos fairly quickly because I've just been creating for so long. The same goes for my books. I could start talking about Path of the Freelancer or The Jump and just pulling out stories and systems and mental models and ideas and graphics. These are things I think that enable me to do this type of deep and wide channel because I've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle that I can just assemble to start doing the things that I'm doing. And I can create this content on my channel without having to create a bunch of different channels for all these different things because of the algorithm, because people are using the homepage, they're using recommendations to watch videos. They're not watching videos from their chronological subscription feed. And so if I trust the algorithm that's going to deliver the content to the people that it's relevant and interested in it, and then it'll shield them from all the things that are not relevant to them, then I should be able to create as much content as I can across a bunch of different topics, and that trust the algorithm is going to do the work for me in filtering and connecting that content to the right people. There are several channels that I followed where I see certain content, and when they post new content that's not in that category, I don't see it. I'm experiencing the type of filtering and the type of promotion from YouTube just from the people that I'm following. I don't know if that's more pronounced because I'm newer to YouTube in understanding how the ecosystem works, and I'm noticing how it recommends videos to me, what it does recommend, what it doesn't, how the algorithm works. And I'm seeing this pattern where it's connecting me to the stuff that I want to watch and filtering out the things I don't want to watch. And that's even by channel. So I don't think there is a need to create a separate channel, which many people tend to do. If I had a large audience of hundreds of thousands or millions of people that were watching my videos from their chronological feed, I think that would be a different consideration. But if people are primarily using the algorithm and the homepage of YouTube to figure out what videos to watch, then I don't think it really matters what videos they create. So this is just a few of my thoughts, thinking out loud, talking through what I think the YouTube opportunity is, how I'm seeing things evolve, and how I'm going to approach things going forward. And we'll see if I can figure out how to make it work. Maybe it won't work. I haven't done this before, so this is my first time. But let's see what happens, and I'm going to see if I can pioneer down this road, and we'll see whether it succeeds in this ecosystem. How about you? What do you think? What do you think I'm missing? What are the things you're seeing that I'm talking about that are actually working for you? And how can you lean into the opportunity further? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm Jason Scott Montoya. Thank you for watching.